Okay, starting over again. We're 7 minutes in, but it kept breaking up due to poor connection. So I actually discarded the previous video. I think Melissa had joined me. Maybe she'll join this one. So anyway, apologies for that. That's not happened to me in a while. So I had to go in and, oh, there you are, you're back. Yeah, I don't know what happened with my connection, but it just kept blinking in and out. And I was like, ugh. So I went back and I just reset all my internet and then came back in. So anyway, sorry about that. I kind of got rid of the other video and we'll kind of start fresh. Here I am, yay! I'm so glad you're here. That's just very weird that happened. So anyway, let's hope that doesn't happen again. But I was starting to talk about this thing with governments and with the messages that I've been getting recently around. Because one of the things I've said, and I'll just sort of cut to the chase on it, being we're already at 6:38, is that they basically, Azrael has indicated that, particularly with regard to the American election, we say, well, people always asking me all the time, especially people who want readings, who's going to win, Trump or Biden? Okay. And the answer I have gotten, and I'm not the only one, has been neither. It's not going to be either one of them. And so that's very interesting. And we know that things have happened since that CNN debate between Trump and Biden. There has been a lot of questions. Now Biden says he's staying in the race, but then there's still people saying, maybe he's not going to be. And again, what is on the Trump side of things, I don't know. As of right now, there's nothing that suggests that he's going to drop out of the race, even with everything that's going on. Like I said, we had that immunity ruling, which was, again, regardless of who's president, that's just not a good ruling. It's just not a good ruling, constitutionally speaking. So there's all that going on. However, we also have one thing that's come up recently, and this seemed to come up in today's reading. In England, you have now a Labour government again. You have Keir Starmer. Now, mind you, there's nothing terribly radical about that. There has been one party that's been in power for a very long time, and these power shifts do happen. Although, as some of my friends over there have said, a lot of them we're gonna wait to not really, we're not going to celebrate Labour's victory too early. They were like, you never know, the Tories could come out in droves and, other people could stay home. And I don't know. And I mean, I imagine there was a lot of cases of some people were not that excited and they didn't come in. Because, I mean, Keir Starmer is, I don't know, he's not the most charismatic individual from everything I've seen and told about that's been told about him. That said, I mean, do you always necessarily want a leader who's got all kinds of drama around them? I mean, sometimes maybe that's interesting or makes it a little more fun for people, but it can also make it a little bit more terrifying, especially if these are people, if you have somebody who's getting caught up in patterns of, greedy behavior or corrupt behavior, which can happen even to people who come in with the best of intentions. Okay. So I don't know. So interesting to see that. But then also I saw in France, they were having elections as well. And you always have to be concerned. There was some concerns about the right-wing faction like Marianne Le Pen and, I think it's Front National. I think that's the party. I could be wrong. That's what's sticking in my head. But in any case, instead, it seemed like the left. And left in Europe is farther left than what we think of as left in this country. We might think of someone as like Alexandria or Ocasio-Cortez as being left. But, and maybe compared to somebody like Biden, yes. But then compared to Europe, she's probably not that far left. So we talk left in Europe, we're talking left. But nonetheless, that seems to have gotten back in power in France. I haven't read all the details, so I don't want to speak and be wrong about the details, but it did seem like there was going to be a left sweep. So I find all that interesting because as we've had over the last few years, this real push towards authoritarianism. And now we're seeing this push more towards freedom. And as we're moving into an age where it has to be more about blazing your own trail, that seems to be the tenor of it. It's not me telling people that they have to blaze their own trail. It just seems like this is the conclusion people are coming to on their own, that somehow the life that we're living is not the way we've been living it. It's not, the old way is not going to work anymore. Even the aspects of the old way that maybe we thought were good, just somehow are not. There's going to be something, it's got to be different. But the different thing is not going to be, now it's going to be terrible and it's going to be locked down and, people are not going to have rights and da. I feel like that push, and basically what the message I got was that there was another timeline shift. and that now we are shifting onto a different timeline where the result is going to be different than what would have followed through if we were on the old timeline. Okay, that's the message that I got. And literally, he was saying something about governments, but he wasn't talking about, like, he was talking about something broader, like where Earth is just like one piece in like a bigger system. He's like, no, the way that the bigger system is moving, and they, you know, right now, but he wasn't really clear about what exactly. He said some of it's going to be a mystery, but we promise you that there's going to be these changes that are going on. And it's not going to be the worst that people are fearing is not going to happen. That said, I don't think that people should therefore sit back and go, oh, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. I mean, democracy requires vigilance, right? But it's, but yeah, so interesting. There seems to be this idea that he's saying, yeah, like, don't worry. There's going to be things are not going to be as bad as they appear, which I think is a good message. Because like I said, sometimes Azrael comes through with messages just for me. But a lot of times the messages he comes through with are for a broader audience. They're not just for me. They're not about me or about my individual circumstances or my family life or anything like that. It's about the bigger picture. So that's why I want to share those here. And again, I'm just sharing them the way I look at it. It's the same way I do with my energy healing. I'm the pass-through. And because I'm the pass-through, I just pass it on, and we see what comes of it. I have no vested agenda in the message one way or the other. It's just, those are the messages. And whatever we're all kind of moving towards that we're not really quite sure, basically he's saying don't worry. I mean, we're moving, things have shifted, things are going to move in a different direction. And it's going to be, it's not necessarily going to be the old way, but it's also not going to be an authoritarian way. That's kind of the way that I feel about it. It's going to be something else entirely. So, interesting, right? So let's just see. Okay, so I think that what I started to say today in the other live stream that got, interrupted regularly with poor connection, which was really strange. I'm going to be looking today at... I was just going to do, it's like a wild card day. I'm just going to do some readings and let's just see what comes up for everybody, for Melissa who's watching and for anybody else who watches this after. I know there's a lot of people who are not necessarily up at 6:30 and prefer to watch the live stream, the recording of it after. So let's just see, what do people need to know today? Let's just start with Cartouche. I'm going to start with my Cartouche cards today. And I did mention at the beginning of the other one, for those who are interested in the tarot videos, Libra through Pisces will be up this morning. I did actually get that done. Yay me. Trying to get things done in the midst of everything. Wow. Okay. So our first card here, we're talking about secrets here. We have the Sphinx card. So Sphinx gets to the bottom of things. It kind of, it gets back to the origins of situations and problems. It also suggests the presence of secrets. And so this is saying, and it's more of a passive card than an active card. So obviously, as you can see, the Sphinx he's sitting. He's not, you're not looking at, that's what the Sphinx does, right? When you look at the statuary. But this is not a Sphinx like we see in, say, the Oedipus story that gets up and attacks and devours. This is a Sphinx that sits. Okay. So this is about passivity. This is about waiting for information to come in. So that's what this is about, waiting for information. And then, we have it with the Lotus card. So the Lotus is about peace of mind, being calm, not worrying. Literally, the meaning of this card is usually not worrying. And that's the point of interest. So I think what it's saying is we are waiting to see how the things that we are worried about, how they are going to be resolved, or how something is going to come out. Now, again, what this specifically refers to, whether it refers to what I was just talking about, or whether it's just that you watching this may have certain things that you're like, okay, I don't know how this is going to come out. This seems to be saying, for the moment, we need to kind of have this peaceful continuity. Good morning, Alex. Just starting to do, this is a wild card day. I'm just doing some readings. And I started, our first card was Sphinx. We're waiting to see something. There's something that's secret, something that's waiting to be revealed. And the point of interest, of course, is to not have anxiety, to not worry about something. Okay. Say factors that we have to be considered is the Crook and Flail. Okay, now the Crook and Flail is an interesting card because it has to do with authority. It has to do with, so it has several different possibilities depending on the context. Oftentimes it has to do with temporal authority, so it has to do literally with like governments or managers or people in charge of something. On a more spiritual level, this has to do with, I don't know, it may have to do, how do I want to put it, with just sort of the laws of the universe or the way that things go. Oh, and good morning, Ellen. I'm doing readings today. So we've got this ideas of kind of like these secret things that are unknown. This kind of points to a couple of things. It points to, first of all, the rightness of things. Whenever a Crook and Flail comes up, I always feel like it has to do with, and when I say the rightness of things, not necessarily one particular code or rule book or something like that. I feel like this has to do more with, when we talk about the rightness of things, okay, when we talk about right action, a lot of times we may think about it in terms of religion, like, what's sinful, what's not sinful, right? We might think of it in terms of what's good or pure or positive, as opposed to maybe what's negative or not appropriate. Crook and Flail to me has more to do with the idea of discrimination. And when I say that, I don't mean that discrimination can have a negative context, right? But more in being able to sort out what is right action in a particular situation. So Crook and Flail has to do with, the focus needs to be on what is right action in a particular situation, okay? I mean, Crook and Flail can have to do with self-confidence. It can have to do with self-discipline. It can even have to do with visibility. For some people, this could indicate an authority figure or a person who's going to come in the similar way that you might see with the Hierophant of the Emperor in the Tarot, somebody who comes in and maybe advises, an expert who might be able to tell you how to do, might be able to show you what the right thing is or what maybe the best decision is. But a lot of it has to do with decision making, and I know that in the way that I learned the Norse runes, in the book that I learned from, I remember there's a phrase that only sticks in my head. It says, we don't ask what is good or bad or right or wrong, but it's not so much about what's good or evil here. The question is what constitutes right action. And the reason that I say it that way is because a lot of times we have preconceived notions about how something should be. We might say, I can't do this one thing because, people won't like me, or maybe, my family will look at me funny, or this will happen, or that'll happen. We have things that we do that we say, well, no, that's a thing I can't do because other people might judge me for it. It's not necessarily that it's a bad thing, just something other people might judge you for. And so therefore, maybe we've kind of had this idea that whatever that is bad, that we shouldn't do it. And what this is saying is, you have to decide what constitutes right action, whether other people think what you're doing is right or not. Rely on your own expertise, rely on your own authority, rely on your own inner voice to tell you what the right thing is to do. Yeah, speaking of, we have Bast as the thing that is showing us as the comment or the advice. And Bast has to do with, it's following your intuition. I mean, obviously there's a sense with Bastet of give as you wish to receive. Okay, there's a sense of whatever action we take, we also do want to consider how our actions affect others, not in the sense of how people are going to judge us, whether they think we're a weird person for liking this or that or whatever. It's not about that. It's about, obviously, you don't want to do something that's going to be, deliberately harmful to another person. We do have that broader consideration. But Bast and Crook and Flail, one of the things those two cards have in common is visibility. People seeing us, seeing what we're doing, recognizing us for the efforts that we do actually make. And Bast is actually the happiness card. So really, as a piece of advice, I would just say more generally, it's like, well, just be happy. Be happy. Be with the people around you. It's a very social card, so, don't hide away. Be happy. Be with people. Be seen for the gifts that you have. And the decisions that you make, whatever right action is in a particular situation. It may also be saying that if you have been doing things lately, or things have been happening that, where you're not really sure of the outcome, and maybe you've been very worried about it, it may be just saying that, you're doing the right thing. If you're listening to yourself, then you're doing the right thing. Don't let other people tell you you're not doing the right thing. Trust your own authority, and worrying about being happy. And our ultimate outcome is the Ankh card, okay? And the Ankh is about life, about living life to the fullest. So really, whatever is going on in our life right now, and actually, if life and death is an issue, this points to life, okay? I'm just going to say that. That's come into my mind. But there's just this thing of, we need to focus more on what makes us happy. And I think as far as social judgments go, a lot of time we assume that doing what makes us happy is somehow something that's bad for us. That somehow we cannot be trusted with our own happiness. And, and that if we're doing something that we love and that we really enjoy and are passionate about and really want to spend our time on, then somehow we're doing it wrong. What was it Joseph Campbell had said when he had, what was he talking about? I think it was Babbitt. Which is I think it's more like a Victorian type of story. And truthfully, I think I've read that like a long time ago, and I couldn't tell you what it's about. But he did mention the fact of being out to dinner one night and overhearing a conversation where there was a young man, and then there was his parents. And there was, I don't know what it was that he didn't want to eat, probably his vegetables or something. And he was going, and the father's like, "You're going to eat those." And the mother's like, "If he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to." And he said, "What are you talking about?" He says, and then he said, and Campbell said he was just really astounded by this. This guy said, "I have never done a single thing that I've wanted to do in my entire life." Whoa, like, I've never done a single thing, so therefore you shouldn't either. I suffered, so should you, And people get like that about things. I'm just thinking about it because my student loan is coming due, like, after years of kind of being put off. And I don't owe very much at this point, but it's kind of funny because the whole student loan thing in the USA was just when Biden said he wanted to do this kind of student loan forgiveness, people jumped in and said, "No, I'd pay a lot of money for my student loans, and so should you." But of course, a lot of these people might have gone to school in the 70s and 80s and even in the 90s. I remember, I told my students, and they laugh, I said, when I went to school, it cost me $65 a credit. 65, it went up to 70, which was like, whoa, a credit. Now it's probably, per credit hour is probably the same thing it cost me to go to graduate school, which you're talking at least, let me think about it. For undergraduate, you're talking over $1,000 per class. It's a lot. In some cases, you're talking close to $3,000 per class. Whereas I paid probably, $65 a class? So what is that? Not even $200 a class. And the people who were saying, "I paid off all my loans," are people who had tuition rates like that. In some cases, they might have even gone to school for free. I remember talking to people like in the early 70s who went to Princeton entirely for free. I mean, just imagine. Whoa, pricey. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of money. The average student, I think, today going to uni pays about, you anywhere from $35,000 to $60,000. Actually, anywhere from $35,000 to $100,000 in debt. It's a lot of money. It's crazy. It's just. So then when people say like, oh, you shouldn't have because I had to pay my loans, and I'm like, yeah, but your loans were probably. I've had to pay for loans. I paid for my first grad degree was actually a library degree, and my mother paid for that. Because now people who go to Rutgers University now, and they think how much they pay for that master's in library, or whatever they call it now, I think I paid $6,000 for the whole degree. My mother gifted that to me. She's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to pay for that for you," because I was married, and she wanted me to be able to get a career and a job because, well, my husband wasn't. So, this was just kind of, this was her way of helping out. And again, the cost of it, and that was for 36 credits. So, so that was much cheaper. People now, when they talk about it, I think the people who are of my generation and older, they look back, they're not understanding how much this costs. Unless they've got kids in school, they're not understanding how much this costs. And I just know it because I'm still in that milieu. I still work for a university, and I'm like, yeah, what these kids are paying for a 4-year degree is obscene. It's no wonder. What a steal. Yeah, I know. And you know what? That was the whole idea. We hear Bernie Sanders talk about everybody should have like free community college or free education should be something that is there to teach you how to be I don't know, how to be a member of society who is both free and also thinking about other people. That's really, when they talk about a liberal arts education, that's what they're talking about. How do you be free, be the person that you want to be, pursue your own goals and dreams, and at the same time have consideration for the people, like, have an awareness of not only what's going on in your state and your country, but also in the world. Like, how do you become a global citizen? And a lot of people try to think like, oh, see, now people are going to try to indoctrinate them in one way of thinking or another. And what's funny is that's often the people who, their idea of somebody indoctrinating you is telling you that you're entitled to your own thoughts. It's weird, because it's like I'd said about religious studies education. There are people who have said, the question was raised, and it was raised by Dan Dennett, I remember, who's the atheist, and he had said, because he believed that there should be religious education in the schools, but not theological education, just let's learn the facts about all the world religions. Let's learn the history, like the histories of Christianity, the history of Islam, history of Judaism, or maybe Buddhism, or Hinduism, whatever. Learning them from a historical point of view, the facts just about how those religions came into being, not about, and maybe talk about some of the core tenets, but it's not there to try to convince kids of any particular religion, just learning the facts. And he says, and he had asked the question, and I asked this question at the beginning of my religion classes. I say, okay, so Dan Dennett said, who do you think objects the most to the idea of that kind of religious education in schools? He says, do you think it's atheists, or do you think it's people who are consider themselves to be conservatively religious? And of course, it's the second group, because they feel that if they learn about other religions, it's going to taint their point of view. Because people they want to maintain purity of doctrine. No, you only need to believe what we tell you to believe. Now, again, if you belong to a community like that and that's what you feel safe with, I'm not here to tell anybody what to believe, that's for sure. But oftentimes, the normal thing to do in our human development is to start questioning the narratives that we've had. I mean, that's what a normal. If your parents tell you something as a kid and you just blindly believe it for the rest of your life, there might be something wrong with your development, because we should be experiencing and learning things in the environment, and not just staying in a little box or a bubble and not experiencing anything. And when you have different experiences, this is why as you move from a tribe to a nation state to an empire, you're going to have all these religions that kind of blend together, because people learn each other's ideas and they think, oh, this is going on over here. How does this fit in? And people are trying to find a way to integrate it or fit it in, And but when economically things are bad, when we perceive, or when change is happening at a very rapid pace that people feel threatened by, then everything pulls back and starts to become tribal again. No, we're only doing what my little group says, and we're suspicious of anybody in the outside. So the idea of education, but now education's become corporatized, and also there's not state support for education anymore. That's part of the reason it's become corporatized, because schools can't afford, whatever money the state gives you is not. Yeah, if you're in a university, that doesn't. It doesn't help. The money that you get from the state doesn't really help. It's not enough to sustain a university. In the past, there was always state funding, or there were like Carnegie grants, or there were things like that. No, it was stuff to make sure that that schools were funded. Schools have endowments. They have all these things that were given to them because people felt that people's education was important. But now education is not only geared towards that. I just find as a faculty member, it becomes about, if they can't really read, write, and spell, it's okay. Just as long as they get the basic idea, it's more like they're the consumer, and we just really need to make sure that they come out with the end product after they've paid. And I don't know. This is why I'm still. Actually, this is something my guides keep telling me to work on. They're like, get your button gear on the school that you want to do. I've been spending a lot of time on the Rouhani stuff, which I think I'm also supposed to spend time on. But I want to get back to this this kind of... really, it's going to be focusing on feminine myth and things like that. But there's more of this institute that's going to be, it's going to be academic, but not in the sense of, we've only got one set of things that we can talk about, and we can't talk outside of this box. Like, it's not good. Academia can talk itself into a box, too. So it's about how do we look at ideas going forward, and but taking it from the context of what we know, in terms of evidence, or in terms of, what's what's informed, what's authoritative, rather than this is just somebody's opinion. What's the informed stuff, and then how can we, but also taking into account what people's experiences are, and what else people how people interpret it, because we always feel like we have to have a past justification for every future thing that we do, but that isn't necessarily the case. So anyway, there'll be more details on the school as I get that together, but right now I'm kind of in an in-between place with regard to finances and stuff, so I'm trying to get that sorted out first so I can sort out the other. So anyway, overall, I'm not pulling our regular Osho Zen cards. Yeah, we have courage. Once again, the idea of trying to make, having the courage to grow in an environment where perhaps we're not seeing where the fertility is, where the abundance is. Okay, maybe we feel that we're going it alone, or maybe we feel that we're what was it one of my colleagues used to say, like we're John the Baptist crying in the wilderness. Like you're basically saying something, and it's like, am I just talking to myself? That kind of a thing. Or am I the only one who thinks my ideas are good ideas? Or, is there, or there could just even be a situation where you feel like you need the strength to, maybe life is out to get you or something like that. So the question is, how do you have courage in the face of that, of the changes, right? And the inner feeling of which we're unaware, this is interesting. This is the Master card, okay? Now this is Osho. Osho or Rajneesh is somebody who, as a guru, is a bit questionable. I mean, he did end up in jail. He's kind of a questionable guy. But for the point of view, this is called the Osho Zen Tarot. So this is not about Rajneesh particularly. But this is, nonetheless, it's about the idea of a master. And for people who have a guru, like I have a guru, okay? So I could look at this, if I was talking about for myself, the guru may be driving this. But on the broader perspective, the sense is that it's funny, we got the crook and flail, right? Somebody who's an expert, somebody who has authority. So it's saying there's some kind of internal expert that's driving this. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're questioning, whatever crisis point you've been brought to, whatever decisions you feel you have to make are being brought to you, it's the master that's bringing these up. It's like, okay, here's, how are you going to apply what you've learned? How are you going to move into this space where you are operating from that area of expertise, whether you want to think of this as your own inner master, or whether you are somebody who is, like I said, who has guides, or who works with a guru, who might have a master. There's an influence of a master, okay? Whether you're thinking about ascended masters, whether you're thinking about, again, I talk a lot, I don't think I'm going to get, just like I hardly get through a live stream without talking about Alan Watts or Joseph Campbell. I'm probably going to be talking a lot about Rouhani too. So, yeah, there's this idea that this could even be the Rouhani masters, in my case. Or just even for those who may have had Rouhani, they may be kind of being pushed. Ooh, I feel that so much right now. Did a similar reading last night. Yeah, there is something, there's something going on. And it's funny, I started with the communications I had from Azrael about how there's something mysterious going on. He's talking about governments or authorities that are kind of beyond us, which I think is interesting. And again, I'm not suggesting that there's some, I'm skeptical of the idea that there's some, some Illuminati-style organization in the galaxy that's watching over. There may well be forces watching over what we're doing, or we may be part of a bigger system that we just don't have any awareness of. Probably, some sort of mastery coming up. Yeah, something where we're kind of maybe either called to bring into our own mastery, or whether or not there is I don't know, there's something that's going on in the collective that's pushing us kind of to this next level of mastery, but also this may be the voice of kind of an internal master, or there's something in the ether. I don't know. There's something going on here where there's kind of a mastery that is being expected. And the external feeling of which we're aware is adventure. So, okay, this gets back to what I was saying in the other reading too. There's these kind of things are actually dovetailing very nicely. There's two ways to look at it. When we talk about having an adventure, it's the question is, are you going to look at a situation with anxiety, or are you going to look at it as an adventure? When we go out on an adventure, there's all kinds of new things, and this can lead to us feeling like we have to withdraw, like we're scared, we don't know what to do. You know, we're in a new country, we're learning a new language, you know, figuratively speaking, maybe literally for some people. And it doesn't feel as safe and comfortable as the old way. Something is changing, or we're undergoing fundamental changes in our life right now, and we don't know what life, you know, whatever maybe we've even been happy with our life the way it's been, but it's kind of like, okay, now something's going to shift, and maybe there's going to be certain things that are not going to be there anymore, or maybe old ways of doing things, which maybe we were comfortable with, aren't going to be there anymore, or maybe they're just not going to be the path forward that's going to help us. So we have to look at it as an adventure. This is Page of Pentacles energy. You know, are we going to look at this kind of moving forward? And it's interesting. Remember how I showed the Courage card, and how I said this is kind of this flower managing to come up in this rocky terrain, and the card underneath it is the Abundance card. Okay. So it's saying, yeah, there is an abundance there. There's abundance that's available. And abundance takes more forms. I mean, there's material abundance, but there's also, you know, abundance of love, abundance of the heart, abundance of friends, abundance of community, having everything that you need. Okay, having people around you, having support. I mean, abundance comes in many forms, and abundance can be a richness also that you just have within yourself. It doesn't have to be financial. Could be financial. People have financial worries and they've been watching this reading, then, you know, I feel like that's a good omen. But this is what the creator of this deck calls Zorba the Buddha. So, and that's actually a very tantric idea. You have this idea of this guy who looks like, who's sitting like a Buddha, right? And we always think of a Buddha as being very aesthetic, you know, in the forest, meditating, you know, fasting, you know, avoiding this, avoiding that. But this guy just looks like he's got all this gold, and, you know, got these different colors. And we've also got the, this is like Jung's syzygy, or the alchemical. You've got the sun and the moon. Like, you know, it's kind of like the marriage of the sun and the moon. The term for that is like is syzygy. And so it's, in other words, it's the blending of opposites. It's almost, this isn't actually the Temperance card, believe it or not. This is the King of Pentacles. But the idea is that Zorba the Buddha is the person who is richly abundant, who enjoys life, who is here, who enjoys the fruits of the earth, who enjoys all the good things life has to offer. It doesn't feel like, and in order to be a good person or a spiritual person, that they have to avoid all of those things. In other words, back to kind of what I've often said, you can be a regular person doing regular stuff, and you can still enjoy your life. You don't have to be some kind of mystic sitting on a mountaintop somewhere. Although our outcome card is aloneness. So what does this mean? It doesn't mean that we're going to be alone. It means, if you can see, this is a guy who kind of has that hermit aesthetic kind of a look to him, but there's a light glowing around him. And what this card means is that you are your own light. Okay, that's the message. So yeah, kind of back to what Alex is saying here, you know, yeah, there's an inner master here. You are your own light. Okay, you are your own light. And you need to trust your own inner authority. You need to trust what you know. Because I think a lot of times we are filled with doubt, like right from day one, that we know who the heck we are or what the heck we're doing. And it's saying you need to trust that you know what you're doing. Even if other people tell you you're doing it, oh no, this is the way it's supposed to be done. I've had clients like that who have been, when their anxiety has been the highest, is when other people have been telling them that they're not doing the thing that their own intuition is telling them to do the right way. Okay? They're telling them to do it the right way. And then they decide, okay, well, I have to do it the way those people told me to do it. And then they go and do it, and then they're like, and then it fails. And they said, but then when I do it the way that I think it should be done, it succeeds. I was like, well, there you go. There's your answer, right? Trust the way your own intuition is telling you to do something, right? Try, you know, this is it. You are, you're your own best resource. It reminds me of the times that I go out. Sometimes I haven't done this recently, but a lot of times, sometimes I will go out. I remember when I was first divorced, I would go out a lot, like to get pizza or something, and I would just go out by myself. And So I go to a restaurant, and occasionally there would be like a family there. Okay. And so I'd be sitting there, and I was always reading something. So I was reading, and I remember there was a time the little girl came up to me, and she's like, "Why do you sit here by yourself?" And her parents were mortified. They were just like, and I'm sure that was what they were thinking too. But anyway, she just looked at me like, "Why are you there by yourself?" And I looked at her. I said, I'm here with the smartest person that I know." and the most interesting. And she kind of looked at me. I was like thinking, I mean, again, I not to pick up, but seriously, it's like, and again, I don't mean to sound that in like a narcissistic, aggrandizing way, but we oftentimes we don't like our own company. We need other people around us either to validate us or to make us feel like, or make us somehow feel, otherwise we feel somehow like we're alone and we're dependent, and we're really not. We have a light into ourselves as well, and I think it's saying, you need to trust that light more. I think that's really what the message is. Yeah, I mean, we have 9 of Wands energy. There's people who are definitely feeling wounded here, okay? There's like this wounding that's going on. And then we have this Page of Swords energy, which is where we worry about the gossip and the things that other people are saying or doing. There's that outside, what we're paranoid about, like from the outside. But yeah, we got the 7 of Wands. We need to stand our ground in terms of what we're doing because of the Wheel of Fortune. We're moving into a space where we are, where things that it's not all about our control. We are being guided, the universe is guiding us to whatever the bigger picture is bringing for us, whatever that means for each of us individually. But that's my readings for today. And like I said, today was a wild card day for people who joined me a little later. Great reading. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. And, so that's what I'm doing. And as I started with this whole thing that Azrael was kind of saying to me, remember I had said that we didn't know what was going to happen politically. It doesn't sound like in the US it's going to be Trump-Biden. I was talking about how over in Europe we're seeing more, like with France and Britain, kind of moving more back to the left, rather after kind of a very right-wing push, or at least contest. And I don't know whether that means it's going to be the same thing here or not, but nonetheless, things are going to be very, very different, and it's saying, we promise you things are going to be different. That's kind of the message that I got. Even though you can't see how it's going to work out right now, I promise you things are going to be different. So, and to say different, it's not going to be that we're all going to be under, authoritarian regime with no rights. It's not going to go that way. But how it's going to go, we don't quite, it's going to be a new way. Okay. Anyway, yes, and again, apologies. This live stream got off to a weird start because I had a poor connection. Melissa had joined me, and then I had to go out and go reset my internet, go back in, and it seems to be fine. So, anyway, I hope that's why this is going to be a little shorter. I think I got back on around 6:37. So, anyway, I hope all of you have a great day. Oh, you're welcome. And enjoy. And then tomorrow, should be on tomorrow morning. Don't, barring any strange, unexpected things, I should be on tomorrow morning. And I hope everyone has a great week. We're at Monday. So, and this is technically my day off, but I have another live stream coming up at noon on the Katonia podcast channel. So, readings will be up, podcast will be up, that'll be up. And of course, like I said, I'm available all week too for people. I have some bookings for Rahani and readings this week, but if anybody needs anything from me, I do have availability this week. So, so take care, have a great day, and we'll see you soon.